So I did mention briefly before that listeners can throw us a question by getting in touch with us at our N-E Café Twitter account, which is at N-E Café 2, or just search for N-E Café on Instagram, on Facebook, or visit the N Europe forums. We have an N-E Café thread where you can ask us anything you like. Now, the question this week does come from the N Europe forums. It's from Wacker Jr. Hi, Wacker. Do we know Wacker Jr.'s real name?
Wacker. His father's Wacker Sr, probably.
And he's asked us, with the onset of the handheld mostly brain training releasing in early January 20, which I'm looking forward to. That does look good. Are you going to get that, boys? With the stylus?
Maybe, actually, because I was sort of thinking, like, I don't have a stylus for Mario Maker, so it kind of killing two birds with one stone. But the games in, like, brain training, I didn't buy the original one on DS, but I think what I've seen of this one here, it looks fun, so might be worth going for it.
Yeah, it's got some of that local multiplayer with the clickers and stuff like that as well, which would be fun with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, like, my eldest son is, like, he started nursery this year, so, like, he's starting to, like, get good with his, like, numbers and stuff, so, like, it's the sort of thing that would be good for him.
Yeah.
So
yeah, colours and numbers. How many red birds? 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. Yeah, lovely.
Perfect.
So his question is, Nintendo chief Shintaro Furukawa was recently quoted as wanting more 3DS franchises on Switch. Which franchises, first of all, from the 3DS, would you like to appear on the Switch? And my instant kind of thing was Pilot Wings. And I kind of thinking, it's not a 3. Yes, it was the last time we saw Pilot Wings was on 3DS, and yeah, of course, I'd love to see something very similar vein on the Switch. But it has appeared on numerous consoles, so I don't think that one will count. But we'll go around in a circle. Nick, do you have anything of interest?
All right, at the beginning when we started chatting, I was making a joke that I don't want any 3DS games. But I've actually thought in the last hour or so, Tamagotchi Life.
Yeah, that okay.
That was actually that was my second most played game on the 3DS after Animal Crossing. Me and my girlfriend, like, we used to play it together, and with somebody else and with, like, me's people who you know, it was a lot of fun. Like, it was really good. Just the absolutely inane situations that could happen in that game. It just kept us coming back all the time, like all these, like, people falling in love and fighting and stuff like that. It was really fun, actually. So I would like something in that vein, probably a little bit deeper, because Tamagotchi Life, it got a bit stale after a few, probably was about 50, 60 hours it began to get a bit stale. And another game featuring the Mii's, which I actually reviewed for N Europe about 4 or 5 years ago, was Miitopia. I don't know if either of you boys ever played that.
I never played it. That seemed a little bit deeper with this RPG elements.
Deep isn't really the word I would use to describe it, but it was a very, very light but very, very fun RPG. It was on rails. Like, all the movement it was automatic. You held A to make it speed up, and you just did the battles basically. And then at the end, you would, like, swap people in and out, change stats and stuff like that. But no, Miitopia for me it was a surprise. Like, I expected it to be kind of like this, like, kind of throwaway, sort of simple, aimed at kids kind of RPG, but excellent writing, very good humor, especially if you had a few. Because I had Reggie, I had Miyamoto, and I had Sakurai in my team, and, like, some of the conversation, like, between the characters actually fit really, really well.
Cool.
Just because of that, like, cast that I'd put together. So I'd like to see Mii's in general return, because I think they are one of the better creations from Nintendo. So they would be my two big hits from the 3DS, Tamagotchi Life and Miitopia, and Pilot Wings as well.
Yeah, always Pilot Wings. Greg, anything from you?
Well, like Nick was saying, like, he was sort of joking that there was nothing, and I'm kind of the same. Like, I've always sort of like people talk about the 3DS having like a great library of games, and like that's true. It's got like an abundance of like really good games, but for me, it doesn't really have like really very many like absolute killer games, like just the top of the top. So like my first thought was actually Pilot Wings Resort as well, because like, I mean, we hadn't had Pilot Wings for a good long time before the 3DS one, and that was my first 3DS game, and
yeah, same here.
I like absolutely loved it. Spent loads of time with it, like perfecting every single course and stuff. And I'm honestly dying for another Pilot Wings on Switch. Well, not necessarily a port or anything, just like I'd love a new one. I'm not sure you could really consider Mario 3D Land as like a 3DS franchise as such, because obviously like Mario Land, we've had that since the Game Boy and stuff, but the Land games are like, you consider them a wee bit different from like the mainline entries, although 3D Land is very close to 3D World in many ways. But like, it was such a fantastic game, and I would love to see something like that on Switch as well. I think a lot of people are expecting like a 3D World port at some point. I quite like a new entry in that sort of style, but perhaps more in the Land style, because if anything, I maybe even preferred Land to 3D World.
I think I agree with you, even though I had so much fun with World, and especially because of the multiplayer aspect. I mean, my son played through that, but yeah, Land did something new, didn't it, at the time? It was more of a platformer, because it probably didn't go so deep in its 3D.
I actually didn't enjoy Land. I much preferred World, to be honest. Okay. I mean, it was I did play through Land to the end, but World, for me, World was much, much better.
Yeah. It was fantastic as well. Like I think they're both amazing.
I remember the first couple of years I had with the 3DS, I didn't get on with it well at all. I bought a couple and sold a couple before I actually, Animal Crossing was what pushed me over the line to stick with it. And I had Pilot Wings, I finished Pilot Wings, and then I got 3D Land, and it didn't click with me really. For the whole game. I did play it through to the end, but I never really got as into it as I did to 3D World.
Cool. A couple I like, and because of the touchscreen, 3DS games I've liked were games, rhythm games. You know, Rhythm Heaven, and obviously that's been on everything under the sun. But there were a couple of other rhythm games, like Theatrhythm, the Final Fantasy Curtain Call, which was a superlative. And I'm not into Final Fantasy, so I don't really get the music. But what a fantastic rhythm game. Anything like that, like Rhythm Thief. Do you remember that rhythm game?
Funnily enough, I was just looking back at my games there a second ago. I thought, well, that could potentially, if they brought something like that to the Switch.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that game, but something like that, quirky kind of, but the rhythm feel of it, and what you were doing, sneaking around, stealing treasures and everything. And then you got Harmonite, which was a Nintendo published. So anything along the kind of lines of a Theatrhythm, a rhythm game where you can play with a stylus or your finger on the touchscreen, and then you can, because the wonderful thing about Theatrhythm as well, you could use the controller as well, for the up and down motions, and button presses for the beats, and it still felt as good as the touchscreen. So given that option of sticking it on the screen and having, maybe 2-player co-op, and then bringing it down to the, to the local and playing it on the touchscreen for single mode, I'd love something like that. It'd be fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, I quite like a good rhythm game, but I never bought any of those Theatrhythm games because it was Final Fantasy, because I've never been into Final Fantasy. And that's just always been the thing that's put me off. I think I probably would enjoy it, but it's just maybe the music I wouldn't really.
Then maybe what's asking for all of us to be happy is something like Theatrhythm Zelda. Legend of the Zelda version of Theatrhythm would just that would be something special.
Well, to be honest, what I would prefer, and it's not 3DS franchise, it's going back further to the DS. One of my favourite DS games, maybe even my favourite one, Elite Beat Agents.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. The only problem is I can't imagine the Switch screen being as easy to use as the DS screen for like drawing around it and hitting all those beats in perfect time, like, because it gets really hectic towards the end. So that would be my problem with that.
Any other games? No, try and think of specific games. Like Greg has already said, Super Mario 3D Land. So instead of franchises, any games that stick out that you would like a port of with HD visuals? And
I liked those little mini games that Nintendo did. I can't remember what they're called now.
The Street Pass ones?
Oh man, the Street Pass games were so good.
Bring Street Pass back, yeah.
That's not what I was thinking of, but yeah, they were great. Like I would love to have all the Street Pass games without the coin mechanic. You know, when you walked and you got just have them. Like I remember the race car game was so good because I actually bought the race car and the fishing one. The quest was quite good as well. Yes. I didn't buy the first batch, but I got the second batch. Push More, that's what it was called. I would like to see that. I quite enjoyed that.
Push More, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those on Switch. I think
probably
that's inevitable.
Because one of them came to the Wii U, didn't it?
Yes, yeah.
One of them did.
It was, but it was Pull Blocks, but I can't remember the American or European names. But it was the world version of it. So they had an online creator mode as well, so you could create your own level and then upload it to the webs.
And Pocket Card Jockey.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've never played it. I haven't played it, but I've heard it's great fun.
For me, I suppose it's a game that I thought was decent, but not maybe as good as everybody made it out to be, and that's Kid Icarus Uprising.
Yeah, that's on my list.
I'm not sure I would be particularly interested in a port of it as such, but like if they brought in another game in that sort of style and like improved a lot of the aspects, like the on foot sort of sections weren't exactly the best. It was definitely much better Up in the Sky, I thought, but it never quite reached the level of like Star Fox or like Sin and Punishment. I didn't feel it was as good as either of those franchises, but I would be well up for a new entry in the franchise, definitely.
And for me, the two kind of standout games, one, because I didn't play it, is Metroid Samus Returns. I just love to see that extra shiny come across just so I could play it.
I also didn't get that.
Don't want to go back to 3DS for that.
I did play it, and it was a
Mercury Steam game.
Solid 7 out of 10.
Well, that's good enough for me. Nice and
high
shiny,
praise from Greg.
Solid. It was good. It's just seemed to be messing something like Mercury Steam just seemed to have I don't know, it was just the vibes. You could feel them like the way Next Level Games, like you can see their fingerprints all over like Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3. You can see Mercury Steam on Samus Returns.
Yeah. And my last one is a game that didn't review well and got intense ire from Nintendo fans, but I loved it, and my son still goes online and plays it. Metroid Federation Force.
I was waiting for Steel Diver.
That online still exists for that game.
Yeah. My son dropped on about a month and a half ago now, but he was for a month and a half ago he stopped playing it again, but he was playing it solidly for a month, and there's a couple of Japanese players he's been connecting to, and he'd find at least 2 players to play with every time he connected. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Do you know what? I think that game gets a really bad rap because I played the demo and I've seen like a lot of stuff on YouTube, and it looks like a very good game, to be honest. It's just not what people wanted, so they kicked off about it. Yeah. I wouldn't mind picking that up actually as well on the 3DS or on the Switch I think it's too risky to port it, to be honest. Actually, not again. They wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, this will tide you over till Metroid Prime 4.
Boom! Internet meltdown.
God, can you imagine E3 2020 new Metroid game, a port
of Federation Force,
of Federation Forces.
Ropey.
Enjoy, please do enjoy,
and nothing about Metroid 4.
Yeah.
I suppose the only other things I would have would be DS games. Ghost Trick, loved that on DS. that we've never got a sequel or anything like that. It's time. And Trauma Center.
Yes,
yeah,
please.
Trauma Center would be good. Yeah. It'd have to be a handheld one, but it's like brain training. So you're gonna have to use it in handheld for the touchscreen stuff.
This for me. This is what the Switch is missing more than anything. Like, it's great, like having all these like huge games and like console games and even like the virtual console stuff and indie games, but there just doesn't feel, to me, it doesn't feel like there's that sort of quirkiness that the DS and 3DS had, especially the DS.
Yeah.
Like, and I do feel that's kind of missing, and I think it would be a benefit to the Switch if they could get more of that sort of, like Trauma Center, like Hotel Dusk, yeah. Like, I can't even remember what was the launch game that was a bit weird for the DS. That Field of Magic, whatever it was called.
Oh, I have that. Project Rub.
Project Rub.
Yeah.
XY Field of Magic or whatever it was called.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
So I think that the Switch is missing just that sort of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's great. Indie games are great. Like, I'm very happy with the indie scene, but the Nintendo always just offered that something like you would look at it and think, well, what? And then when you played it, it would click. So that's what I would like to see, most of all.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like if you've enjoyed our content. You can also check out our other great content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the N-E Café podcast from all good podcast providers. Just follow the links in the description below.